Oh, hey, it's Andryanna, and I'm really glad you tuned in. I'm so thankful that you are here for this episode of The Juggle is Real. This one, there's a lot of good in it, and things that I'm just kind of like realizing and going through, and I wanted to share because it's amazing how these little moments in our lives can turn into these huge realizations and can be really helpful. So that's why I'm here. I wanted to share something that happened to me recently and how it's got me thinking about the pain that we've learned to tolerate and how we can let it go. So, really quickly, as part of my 30 days for me, my intentions that I go through from my authentic self care planner, one of the commitments that I made to myself was to book a massage for the month of February, which I did and thankfully was able to get in, find a spot, get a massage with my massage therapist, who's incredible. Her name is Yvonne. And during the massage, kind of just little murmurings here and there, I hold a lot of tension in my neck, my traps. I can sometimes get headaches. And so she was working through some kinks there. And she said something to me in passing during the massage, but it really stuck with me so much so that when the massage was over and I got dressed and I got in the car, I jotted it down in the note section on my phone. And I was like, yeah, we need to think about this and I need to share more about this. So I'm going to talk about that. And I want to look at just how we are learning to tolerate pain in all sorts of different forms, why we are tolerating more than we should, how we can recognize when we're tolerating too much, and then moving from tolerance to transformation. So, if you guessed it, sort of what she said to me was, it's amazing how much pain we learn to tolerate. And of course, she was talking about, the pain that we tolerate in our body with our muscles and the tightness and the tension. But when she said that to me, it's amazing how much pain we learn to tolerate. It just hit me, like we are, so many of us, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally, like we are tolerating so much. So I want to explore this idea. How much pain have we consciously learned to tolerate? And more importantly, how can we stop it? So whether it is physical tension, emotional exhaustion, or those situations that drain us, we often keep pushing through instead of making real change. And so in this episode, I want to support and guide you through recognizing what you've been tolerating and how to start letting go. So if this sounds good, let's dive right in.
Hey, I'm Andryanna, and this is the Juggle is Real podcast. As I share my ongoing journey from experiencing burnout to leading a more mindful and intentional life with better balance, I hope you feel seen, that you realize your worth, lighten your load, and prioritize your own needs. As we hear from leading experts and well-known faces in the wellness, entrepreneurship, education, and motherhood space, I hope you gain insights, proven practices, and learn actionable tools to help you enjoy the juggle of work, family, and everything in between with a little less stress and a lot more ease, joy, and fun. Most of all, I hope you find what you need to simplify, streamline, and supercharge your own journey of better balance and self-love. Are you with me? Let's get started.
It is so incredible how much this one little sentence, this little phrase in passing that my massage therapist said to me has affected me. And let's just get into it right away because I have a lot that I want to share. But first, let's start by how we learn to tolerate pain. And there's all sorts of different pain. But when we're talking about physical pain, like so many of us are pushing through that physical discomfort. We are ignoring our headaches, maybe tight shoulders or backache, so many different things. Maybe I'm just talking about myself, all of these things, but like we are chalking it up to just life, right? And we're ignoring these signs until it becomes unbearable. And we have this chronic stress and chronic fatigue, or we're experiencing burnout, or we're having physical or like very bad illnesses that are too hard to ignore. And it's not just physical. Like if you think about it, how many of us are tolerating emotional and mental pain, or things like our jobs if they're leaving us drained, relationships in our lives that no longer bring us joy, or the constant low level stress that we're totally accepting and it's now just becoming our normal. So this tolerance of self-doubt and societal expectations, like it's a lot, and there is science behind it. Studies actually show that 75% of people feel stressed but don't actively work on reducing it. Why? It's because we adapt. The human brain, we have this ability to adapt to chronic stress, and we are wired to adjust to discomfort, whether it is good for us or not, right? This is neuroplasticity. This is stress tolerance. And while, okay, sure, we can just accept it. Is it good? Is it good for us? I've been reading a new book, which is not new, but it's new for me, but it's really been just like mind blowing in so many ways. And I haven't finished it yet. But when I do, I'm sure I will talk about it more. But I'm reading the book that was written, I don't know, 15 years ago by Eckhart Tolle called A New Earth. And he in the book talks about our ego, right? And our ego often holding on to pain as part of our identity. This is like a role that we play. And he explains how our ego clings to pain because it gives us a sense of identity. We say things, and I really, truly, the last few years, try to catch myself in this, but it is so common to hear, like, if you just talk to someone and say, how's it going? How are you? The automatic response is often like, oh, good, just super busy. I'm always busy, or, this is how it is. This is just how it is. But is it like, is it how it is? Is this how it should be? And is busy a good thing? I've learned that it's not, but we are accepting these things, right? So we've learned to tolerate pain in many ways and be accepting of it. But why are we tolerating more than we should? Why do we put up with so much? And I mean, we can blame our cultural conditioning. We live in a society that glorifies being busy, that puts overwhelm and exhaustion on a pedestal. And we have been taught that suffering is just part of the process. No pain, no gain. If you want to be successful, you have to work super hard. And it's this grind culture that rewards overworking and going to the brink of, being totally exhausted. And so these societal norms teach us that it's supposed to be this way. Another reason why we might be tolerating more than we should is the fear of changing, the fear of not accepting it, right? So we are telling ourselves, we are reaffirming this is just how it is, instead of even considering that there could be an alternative, instead of even thinking about, well, what if I don't want this to be how it is, right? And studies actually show this status quo bias. And our brain, I think I've talked about this on the podcast before, but our brain actually prefers discomfort because it feels familiar. Even if it is chaotic and stressful and hard and we don't feel good, it is what we're used to. It is what feels familiar to us. And the opposite of perhaps going against the status quo, changing, not tolerating the different types of pain that we're experiencing, that is unfamiliar. And even though it might be better for us, even though it's providing relief in the long run, the thought of changing and moving into something that is unfamiliar is stopping us from even exploring what else could be. And so it shows, there's studies that show that people actually prefer to stay in mildly bad situations rather than facing uncertainty. And I'm not talking about, but in some cases, it actually is where people are in horrible situations, and they are choosing to stay in them because they're afraid of that uncertainty. Another reason why we might be tolerating more than we should is what is called emotional numbness. We are just getting used to it. And it is just so ingrained within us, this level of discomfort, that we stop recognizing it as a problem. We don't even realize that it could be an issue that we are just tolerating, because when we've been putting up with this discomfort for so long, we just don't even see it as a problem anymore. But if someone were looking, or if you pick yourself up and you see yourself, as at that third person level, and you were looking at the situation from a neutral perspective, would you think that there was a problem, or would you think that you're tolerating more than you should? So that is what I want to talk about next, is recognizing it, like recognizing where you are tolerating too much. And this really is like such a beautiful first step. And so I really want you to stop. I want you to pause right now and really, really think about this. And this can be, such a huge topic and question, and you can spend a lot of time, but just even if you're driving or walking or emptying the dishwasher, just think about this and ask yourself these questions. Where in your life are you just enduring instead of enjoying? Right? What parts of your life are you just tolerating instead of truly living? And you can break it up into different areas of your life, and you can think about it in these different categories, perhaps with your friendships, your relationships, your family life. You can look at it through the lens of your career. You can look at it through the lens of how you're showing up and the person that you're being, how you're caring for yourself. So where are you just enduring instead of enjoying? Another question can be, where have you accepted discomfort as normal? And when I talk about discomfort, I'm not talking about like, oh, like I was afraid to speak my mind and get up on stage and make a presentation. But then after I did it, I was just so happy that I did it. And I was so proud of myself, and it went really well. But where are you accepting and tolerating pain in your life as being normal? And where are you pushing through that is causing more harm than good? Another thing you can ask is, what is one area where you could say, I don't have to tolerate this, or I don't have to live like this? It could be your stress levels. It could be your schedule. It could be a relationship. It could be how you treat yourself. But recognizing and becoming aware of what areas that you're tolerating too much is just a beautiful exercise. And it can fluctuate and change, day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year. So stopping and inviting yourself to just think about it is really great. We have these red flags, this chronic stress, the physical pain that is nagging at you. If you are feeling a lack of joy in your life, if you're staying in situations that are really draining you of your energy instead of filling you up, I mean, this happens to everyone. And I'm not calling you out, and I'm not suggesting that you have to make drastic changes, but like, listen, there are times when I have tolerated things for too long before recognizing it, and it has taken such a huge toll. I talk about my experience with burnout all the time, and that's where this podcast was rooted in. But even just more recently, and it's a short story that is written in the Juggle is Real Authentic Self-Care Planner, where I talk about having shingles just last year, at the age of 40, a relatively young person experiencing this nervous system illness that is typically experienced by people that are much older. What was a time that you tolerated something for too long before realizing the toll that it actually took? So you can ask yourself these questions. And that's really the first step. And once you've done this, once you've become more aware of, of the tolerance levels that you're experiencing, now we can move into more of a transformation, right? So step one is that awareness, noticing what you're putting up with and maybe asking yourself why, maybe seeking out the answer to why, and just gaining that awareness and recognition. And then step two is going to be giving yourself that permission to change. And when I say permission to change, it is truly giving yourself the go ahead to want better and to seek out something that feels a little bit better. And I talk about it often, like just simply asking yourself, like in those moments where you're noticing and you're recognizing that you're not feeling your best, or you're tolerating too much, or there is pain in your life, just saying like, what would make this feel a little bit better, and seeking out what that could be and moving towards that. And I know that there's so much in your life that you could be tolerating. And I know that there's so much on your plate that it could feel overwhelming and difficult. And, we're battling that status quo, right? Where we're afraid of change and where we're resistant to change because it's unfamiliar. So giving yourself the permission really means that you are going to seek out and start with some small shifts. This is not a total life overhaul. I'm not saying walk out the door and never come back. But what are some practical ways that we can start letting go of this unnecessary pain in the various areas of our life? We can listen to our body, just listening in and having those check-ins with ourselves, and instead of pushing through when you feel really tired, maybe it is just pressing pause and taking a 10-minute rest. Start noticing and listening, doing those check-ins. I know we talk about boundaries all the time and we hear the big bad B word, but making those commitments to yourself and maybe setting these little rules to support yourself. And it can be as simple as, muting some of those group chats. I talk about that all the time too. It can be as simple as just saying no and releasing something with love for a short amount of time and then coming back to it and seeing how that might change. But it's okay to say no. So those boundaries that you're setting up, it's not a bad thing. It's really to support you in removing pain and unnecessary discomfort from your life. And these small shifts can be not just reducing and releasing and letting go, but it can also be increasing and prioritizing things that are meaningful for you, things that are more joyful, and increasing that sense of presence. So asking yourself, what brings me happiness? And then just making a little more room for that, actually setting that coffee chat with your best friend whom you haven't seen for a long time, or putting that energy in areas that are bringing you joy. Coming back to the book, A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, realizing deeply that the present moment is all you have and making now the primary focus of your life. That's something that I think we all struggle with. We have schedules we have to abide by. Things have to get done. We're looking to the future a lot. Sometimes things from our past is bringing us a lot of pain. But what he says and what he emphasizes in the book again and again and again is that really right now truly is all we have. And so making it the primary focus is how we can stop tolerating pain and start creating joy. Tolle says that happiness can be a role that we're playing, or we can actually experience true happiness. And that inner sense of peace that we feel when we are present, when we're recognizing this exact moment, that is the source of true happiness. And so he says, instead of saying, I am unhappy, I am depressed, I am, whatever that word might be, instead of making that your role, your identity, And like we were saying earlier, when we're taking on these things, we're tolerating so much and we're making it a part of our life. Like, oh, I'm busy. Instead, you can flip it and shift that to, instead of I am unhappy, saying there is unhappiness in me. There is chaos in me. There is pain in me. And so the primary cause is never the situation itself. So for instance, if there is pain in you, my tension, um, it's never the situation itself, but your thoughts about it. So how can you look at the story that you might be making up, the story that you're telling yourself about what you're tolerating, like, it's okay, everyone's busy, or, there's chaos in everyone's life. No, nothing, no one has a perfect relationship. So I'm just gonna, keep moving and tolerate this, even though it's causing me pain. And instead of these stories that we're making up about ourselves, sticking to the facts. And if there is unhappiness, if there is pain within you, then it really is that link between your thoughts and your emotions. So being aware of it and seeing the awareness behind it really is that first step. So you're not seeking out happiness, you're not looking for happiness, but you're facing the facts of what is, and then seeking out that present moment in terms of understanding that all we have is now, and that being your primary focus of your life. If that makes sense, or was I just babbling? This book is so deep. There's so much to it. I can't wait to explore it more with you. But I just wanted to share that, in moving from tolerance to transformation, we're becoming aware, we're giving ourselves permission to change, and we are going to move into those small shifts and those practical ways that we can let go of the unnecessary pain and tolerance. So as we close out, I want to challenge you. Is there one thing that you will stop tolerating this week? Can you ask yourself those questions that we went through earlier and start recognizing the areas where maybe you are tolerating too much and you can make a change? A lot of the tension that I experience is due to like sitting on my laptop and I'm crunched up, and can I make a shift? Can I get a standing desk? Can I not be sitting for so long? Can I improve my posture, put on a timer, start being more aware of the things that are causing the tension, and start making those small shifts? So I'm challenging you to recognize and to choose one thing that you are tolerating and putting an end to it, making that small shift to listen to your body, to set a boundary, to prioritize joy. And let me know how it goes. I want you to reflect on that area, and I want you to share it. Can you send me a DM? You can email me. There is a email address in the notes for this podcast episode. You can slide into my DMs on Instagram. My handle is Andryanna G. And if you're listening on Spotify, I believe you can make a comment in that section as well. And if this episode resonated, I really and truly invite you to share it with a friend or send me that message. I would love to keep this conversation going. I think it is so important. I also want to thank Yvonne, my massage therapist, for in passing noting that phrase. It's amazing how much pain we learn to tolerate, so that I could think about it a little bit more deeply and have this conversation with you. I'm so grateful that you took the time to listen. Please make sure that you're subscribed to The Juggle is Real. If you like the episode, that you rate it, write me a short review in Apple Podcasts to help other people find this information. And until next time, give yourself that space to thrive and to truly enjoy and to stop tolerating and to truly move into that transformation. I love you so much. Thank you so, so much. Take good care.